Hello everyone, welcome to mixaddicts.com's very first video tutorial. My name is Ryan J. This tutorial is being done as part of the brand new website, so make sure you come on by and check it out. Once again, mixaddicts.com. This tutorial is going to be all about how to take the grounding wire off of a Technics 1200 turntable, and what we're going to be doing is putting it basically through the shield wire of the standard RCA jack that comes along with it. In the meantime, you'll actually be able to, if you wanted to, while you're doing this, you could lengthen the standard RCA cable length, because this thing is usually only about 3 feet long or so, and depending on where it sits in your booth, that may not work very well. The common argument, I suppose, would be, you know, why don't you just... This happens a lot to these grounding wires, is that they tend to, I don't know how well you can see that, but they tend to, the spade connector that comes on them tends to fall off. Now of course you could just crimp a spade connector on there, that would certainly work, but the downside to doing that is that you still have a ground wire, and that's kind of a pain. So the point of doing this is to basically take out the ground wire completely so that you never really have to deal with it again, and you don't have to try to get it to stick into the back of mixers, etc., etc. Alright, so the tools that we're going to need to do this are as follows. Realistically, the big ones that you're going to need are going to be the small flat blade screwdriver. This guy's pretty small, and that's a good thing, and it will become apparent why later. A number 2 star head screwdriver, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. You need a soldering iron, 15 watts is fine, a bit of solder. You definitely need a multimeter. If you have a power screwdriver, like my nice little drill here, you can use that. And it's a good idea to have a set of side cutters or wire snips and some wire strippers available as well, because depending on how you decide to do the final end modification, that will affect whether you want that. So that's what we're going to need to do all of this today. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, first thing we need to do here is determine whether or not we can actually do this mod with the rest of the equipment in your arsenal. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a few tests on your mixer. I have here in front of me, this is a Pioneer DJM 600 mixer, and I know for a fact that this works on this mixer as well as on a DJM 500. Chances are it will work with most of the rest of Pioneer's mixers as well. What we need to do is determine whether or not the ground screw on the mixer shares a common ground plane with whatever input channel RCA you're going to use. The reason being, what we do with the mixer is we basically dump the ground wire down the outside of an RCA. This is possible because on something like a DJM 600, the ground pin and the ground wire share the same ground plane. So how are we going to test for this? Well, that's where our trusty friend, the multimeter, comes in. Alright, so how does this whole thing work? What we're going to do is take our trusty multimeter leads here, and we're going to double check again that the ground pin shares a common ground with the outside of an RCA jack, such as, and it doesn't matter which lead you use, by the way, and in which order. So I tend to use the line inputs on channel 3 and channel 4 because they actually also have phono inputs. So what I'm going to do is double check that the outside of the RCA and the pin have the same or very, very open ohmage on the multimeter, and they do. So that's excellent. Okay, so the next part of this is going to be a little bit of workspace setup. We've got to make sure that we've got things set up appropriately so that we can actually work on the turntable itself. A lot of people like to take the platter off of the turntable before performing this. It's not really necessary. You don't have to do it. It's not a part of the aspect that we're going to be getting into on the turntable. What we do want to make sure of, though, is that the tone arm assembly is protected, so we don't really want to be turning the turntable just over onto itself. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stack up some books that will fit just inside here to keep it above the level of the tone arm assembly so that we can get this done properly. Just as a note, it's easier if you set it up so that the books rest, so that the turntable will rest on books here and just on the left side of the platter here. It's tough to find books that are bigger, that are small enough, unless you use small paperbacks or something to fit in here. And you can if you want to, but it's unnecessary. So when I go ahead and flip this bad boy over, making sure that if I haven't taken this platter off that I make sure that it doesn't fall anywhere, which it probably won't if your turntable is like mine and old and stuck together, so that when it comes together it sits just on that edge and then on the platter. Just double check that I'm not doing anything bad to the tone arm assembly here, and it looks good.